Hello, happy Wednesday. This is Wednesday Coffee with me, Pastor Justin.
And Pastor Austin.
And we're grateful for you that you clicked in. Hope you're having a good week. We have been working our way toward, at least.
We'll get there someday.
We'll get there eventually. A conversation about evangelism,
Yep.
right? And what that means, what that looks like, especially for us as disciples of Christ in the 21st century. And I made a claim at the end of our last video. I said that I believe that as Christians, one of the greatest assets that we have is death. I don't know that I don't know that I like that claim. I said the very same thing to a group of high school youth at camp a couple weeks ago, and I want to get to that today and dig into that. But first, let me tell a little story here. So, I was in California. I think this was probably 2007, 2008. Okay, and there was a Sunday morning where I visited a church that was having their closing celebration. Okay. Wonderful church, beautiful facility. I mean, one of those just gorgeous old stone buildings built into the side of this beautiful hill. And this is a congregation that had probably in the 1950s, when a lot of congregations peaked in terms of attendance and membership, probably peaked at an average weekly worship attendance of 500 people. And they were down to 12. And 12 people left every Sunday. And so ultimately they made the very hard decision to close, to end the visible manifestation of that congregation's ministry. Okay. And so I went that day, we worshiped together. There was a big crowd that day, a lot of folks that came back to kind of say goodbye and help. So I went and we worshiped together, and then there was a lunch with speakers and celebration. And I found myself sitting next to a woman who was one of those 12 remaining members of the church. She was 94, and she had been a member of that congregation since she was baptized at age 12. So she'd been a member there for 82 years, her entire life.
Yeah.
You know? And it was such a blessing to get to sit with her and just listen and hear her stories. And at one point I finally said, you know, this must be really hard for you. And she began to cry. You know, she teared up a little bit and talked about how hard it was to see this beautiful thing that had been such a central part of her life for so long go away. But then she smiled and she wiped her tears away a little bit, and she said, but you know what? I'm so excited about what's going to happen next, because they had a contract on the building for $4 million. Okay. And so they sold this building, and they had already decided to take these 12 people to take this windfall, $4 million for the kingdom, right? Yeah. And they had already agreed to plant 3 new churches in their city to fund those. They had invested, they were planning to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in their church camp. Yeah. So that kids could continue to reap the blessings of that. They were investing in several local ministries in their community. All of these beautiful things were going to happen because they made this really hard decision to close this church. Okay, so here was the claim. Again, one of the greatest assets that we have as Christians is death. Pastor Austin, agree or disagree?
Oh, I have to agree. And, you know, it's hard because death is hard. Losing things is hard. Grief is hard. And it's part of the experience of life and part of who we are as humans, and part of the story of Christ, part of the gospel narrative. You know, when I think about being a very amateur gardener, I think a lot about death and how, you know, the best tomatoes in my garden come off the plant that was stuck in the compost pile, right? Maybe the plant that came out of the compost pile, right? Because all of those things that died, death, I think we tend to think of death as an end, right? This is it. Put end screen, black screen, it's all over, right? But death is ultimately an introduction into something new.
Yeah.
And there's mystery there, and that's scary. I'm not claiming to have all the answers or know what is on the other side and what exactly that's like. But I think that
talking about that a little bit Sunday.
We might, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that.
I don't know that either. But I think that when we ask these questions, we hold those tensions. Really, new life, beauty can come out of these little deaths all around us all the time, whether that's in your compost pile or whether that's a church that decides, we can close our doors and do 1 million ministries if we decide to give up, if we decide to die in this way, right? Death is always opening up a door into some kind of new life. Right. And that's not to say that it's easy all the time, because certainly it's not. But it is meaningful, and I think it is good.
Yeah. I think one of the ways that I've heard the gospel described is that the good news, right, of Christ, that death doesn't have the final word. But I think it's more than that. Actually, not only does death not have the final word, but death is actually the fertile soil out of which new life comes.
Right. I think we sometimes talk about death as like the enemy, this thing to be avoided, this thing to be scared of. And certainly, right, like the mystery there, the unknowing, we live in fear of that sometimes. Right. But like when we get close to death, I think you're right. We recognize like, oh, it's this living soil, this fertile field of possibility.
Sure. Okay, so at the end of this life, at the end of bodily life, we know that that is a death that God uses to bring us into something new, something mysterious and beautiful. Let's talk about the new life that happens right here. Yeah. Okay, that story is one example of that kind of thing. Yeah. If we want to live abundantly as people of Christ, not just individually, we become too individualistic, I think, in our thinking about that, right? But if we as community, as church, as world, if we want to live abundantly, what are some of the things that have to die in the here and now in order for us to be released into fullness of life right here?
Yeah. Oh, good question.
There's 712 things.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll go through the list right now.
What are the big things? What has to die for us to be, the faithful people, that God's calling us to be? What has to die for us to have the abundant life as church that we know God wants for us?
We talk about this a lot, and I think that maybe it's hard to locate exactly what it means, but the word that comes to my mind is ego. Right? Ego has to die. This sense of that self, that the individual is more important than what God is doing with the whole, right? And not to say that the individual isn't important, because God created us as beautiful, unique, awesome individuals, ultimately that come together as a whole to create something even more beautiful and unique and awesome. But I think a lot of times we are so focused inwardly that we forget that we fit together. And we got to let some of that die sometimes. And that's hard, because like I want to make sure I can take care of myself, and take care of my family, and take care of my friends, and take care of the things that I need to take care of. And also, how do I give some of that up too and give it over to my community to help me take care? Right? I think the fear is that if I give it up so much, who's gonna take care of my family? Who's gonna take care of me? But I think the invitation that the church offers is into community, and saying, you might be giving up this ego self, this desire, this thing that you really want to hold on to, you're giving that up, but you're giving it to a community that's going to help you hold it.
Yeah.
And help hold you.
The community of Acts 2 was much more interdependent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We live in Texas, and I love Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I love Texas. And I think we, as modern Texans, we probably, one of those things that we value is independence.
Liberty.
Right?
Yep.
Independence. Independence is a good word. And I'm not saying it's not, right? And maybe the thing there that is meaningful, right, is that that somebody somewhere else, doesn't get to take our agency.
Sure.
Right? We have agency.
Absolutely.
As individuals and communities. And right, the biblical model is not one of independence, right? That is not the ultimate biblical value. I would say dependence upon God.
Sure. Yep.
First, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then interdependence.
Exactly, yeah.
Is really the Acts 2 model. Mm-hmm. When we see the way that community was doing life together, yes, they were much more interdependent. And maybe we live most fully when we lean that direction as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Matthew 16:24. Jesus says, "Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me." Okay? And maybe when we think of denying ourselves, maybe we tend to lean into, some of those stereotypical things like, bodily desires, right? Denying, that desire to eat more sugar, right? That's one I struggle with. Sexual things often get talked about there. Deny yourself, right? And so yes to all of that. Mm-hmm. But I would say deny yourself is also bigger and sometimes more subtle than
Absolutely.
That. And we're moving here again towards this question of evangelism. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that if we want to do faithful evangelism, come alongside the people of our community in faithful ways, what might be some of the ways that we have to deny ourselves in order to make that possible? Mm.
Gotta deny that I'm always right.
You're not?
Well, I mean, I'm always right, Justin.
Most of the time. Cheers.
Cheers to that.
That I'm always right.
I think that's a big one. I don't know. What do you think? What stands out to you?
Yeah, that. Denying that I'm always right. Probably, I would come back to what you said about ego, right? Comfort.
Comfort's a big one.
Let me lay out a couple of words here that I think might be helpful in terms of understanding, the change that needs to happen, the dying that needs to happen, the ego death that needs to happen in order for us to be prepared to do the kind of evangelism I think we're called to do. Mm-hmm. Let me draw a distinction between the words assimilation and incorporation. Okay? Churches sometimes talk about and even use the word in their official kind of process, new member or visitor assimilation. Right. Somebody comes along and we want to assimilate them into the life of the congregation. Okay, but there is inherent to the word assimilation. I mean, the root of assimilation is same. And I think there's this idea that we need to bring those people in and make them the same as us in order for them to function here.
Right.
And I think there's implicit in that an expectation that ultimately what we're trying to do is preserve the institution as is. Mm-hmm. And so I'd come back to that congregation in California, right? They've been doing church a certain way for a long time. There are things in any congregation that that become normative and comfortable. Yeah. that maybe, coming back to another couple of terms that we used a few weeks ago, maybe have less to do with sacredness, and more to do with just sort of cultural customs.
Sure.
Right? There are ways that we're comfortable doing. It's how we do things around here.
That's my pew. That's how it's done.
That's my pew. This is the kind of music we do. This is how our meetings function. This is how we do church life. And it's not that there aren't sacred things beneath some of that, right?
Sure.
But we do have to continue to ask the question, I think, what are those sacred things? And what is the cultural wrapping that we put around that? I think sometimes we sort of insist on those things, not because they're really sacred, but because we've become comfortable with them. It's what we're used to.
Yeah.
And if you want to come, if you want to come do life with us, you need to assimilate. You need to become the same as us. You need to do things the way we do things.
Like what we like.
Like what we like, etc. And I wonder if there's not an extent to which some of that is what needs to die, right? If we really want to do faithful evangelism. If we need to move from assimilation to incorporation. Okay, incorporation, the root word there, corpus, body, right? Bringing people into the body. And maybe it changes the body.
Oh, what?
Right?
Wait, you're saying that if I'm in community with you, that it might change some of who I am and some of who you are?
Ooh. Yes.
All right.
Yes. I am. Because God is moving and working in beautiful ways in every person. And there are, God is gifting every person. And every person, who has the Spirit working in them reflects that in beautiful ways. And maybe new ways, right? Yeah. So a person that we don't know comes here to FCC, and it's gonna change us, and it should.
Thank God.
And thank God, right?
Yeah.
It grows us, it stretches, and it's gonna change them too,
Yeah.
to become part of our community.
Absolutely.
Right? But yeah, incorporation assumes that we are all one body. And every person brings something unique and beautiful to that, and it grows the body and changes the body. And ultimately, it is none other than the body of Christ. And the more people are part of that, the more beautifully and completely it embodies what that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
None of this is easy.
No, because you start changing things, and things get uncomfortable. Right. And it's not easy. Church, the sacred, when it becomes conflated with some of those comforts, right? Mm-hmm. We start maybe mistaking those comforts for what has been sacred. Mm-hmm. And, we grieve when we have to give things up that we really deeply care about. Right. And so I do think there's a process of grief that comes along with some of this too, right? When we die to ourselves, when the institutions that we are die to themselves, there's processes of grief here too, that are important to engage and not just glaze over.
That's right. That woman, that 94-year-old woman, she gets to cry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
She gets to cry.
Yeah.
And I was also just amazed and really moved by how she was able to both do that, grieve, cry, and also be excited about what was possible on the other side of that. They were down to 12 people. By the way, there's precedent for 12 people starting something new.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so yes, important awareness, the importance of dying to self, dying to the way things have been, being open to new things that may come as we come alongside and welcome people that we don't know yet. And maybe that is an important grounding point as we think about what evangelism with those people looks like.
Absolutely.
How is this work going to be a blessing to them? But by the way, how might it also be a blessing
Right.
to us, and how might it grow and change us too? Can we talk about that next week?
Let's talk about it next week.
All right.
We hope to see you there.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Peace, church.